Hello, and welcome to this session. I'm very excited to talk about architectural thinking on Flutter state management. And let me confirm with you that if you're seeing me and you are hearing me well, leave a comment and let me know if everything is working as it should. All right, perfect. That sounds good. Let's get it started. So I have actually a lot to talk today. I chose one of the most controversial topic in probably Flutter world, and that is state management. And probably you will require me to somehow give you a clear answer at the end of the day, like what is the best state management. So we will figure out today. Um, let's get it started. So I have been working as like a Flutter developer for quite a while, maybe 4 years or 3 years. I think 4 years, I would say. And I mean, as soon as you have your project ready and you want to go and build your application, the after a few screen 1, 2, 3, then you will need to somehow manage your state in the application because that is one of the most important things that will happen in your application. Then you will come to choose, okay, what should I do? Should I just go ahead and let's say uh, use block or report or provider or etc or something else, and it's a lot of packages for sure, right? And it makes people, especially newcomers to Flutter, a little bit confused. So today, I'm going to actually talk about that. And I will actually walk you through the architectural thinking, like how an architect think about an state management and decide on which a pattern or which even a package is better for a particular problem for sure, right? So what we're going to do here, we're going to talk about that, and then we will compare some Flutter state management packages and patterns, and then we're going to talk about architecture characteristics and the decision-making process, right? The reason that I chose this topic, architectural thinking, is that I've been working as a solution architect for maybe a year almost. And the way that software architect, before that, I've also been like a senior developer and had like a role of software architect for a while, right? So the way that we think about uh, solving problems, like architect things, is a bit different. Let me introduce myself if you don't know me very quickly. My name is Majid. I'm based in Oslo, Google developer expert for Flutter and Dart, and of course, one of the Flutter community leader and admins. I do a lot of things in my spare times, like creating courses, videos, like doing a lot of contents and things like that. All right. I see that someone is saying that my voice is not clear. If that's a problem for everyone or is just that person? Just please let me know because I have absolutely no clue. I'll continue until I see some more comments. So I'm also organizer of Flutter Vikings. By the way, if you are watching us, if you are in Europe or maybe you can't travel to Norway, Flutter Vikings will happen in 2nd and 3rd February 2022. So like in 3 months, you may want to join in person or you may want to watch it online. So you can go ahead to fluttervikings.com and grab your free ticket for online or purchase a ticket for in person. It's a 2 days conference. I really want to see you if we can in person. All right. So architectural thinking. So most of the topics that I will cover is coming from this book, and also my experience for sure. And if you're not familiar with software architecture at all, I really recommend you to go ahead and get this book, buy this book, Fundamentals of Our Software Architecture, and get yourself familiar with how software architects think and solve the problems. So we're going to talk about actually in this book. So it's mentioned that architectures is all about trade-off, right? And that means you need to understand, you need to analyze, you need to recognize all the trade-offs associated with the problems and, or the solutions. So architects, including myself these days, are a little bit boring people because they always tell you, two words, and it just says it depends, right? So, but we will actually realize why everything is just a trade-off, right? Everything is a trade-off. And also, there is also always business drive. So as an architect or software architect, we're building, our software or application, let's say our Flutter application, to serve some type of business, right? So it's not only engineering part of it, it's also business part of it. And I also added team drive. Sometimes even developing an application is requiring the team motivations. This is very important. The importance actually of the business drivers and translating them to the architecture's concerns is very, very crucial. In other words, like, let me tell you, for example, when we talk to business people in our team, or when we're talking, or to product owner or other people, this is something that, you should take into account when we're talking about them. I'll give you some example along the way. So just bear with me a little bit. And at the end, the architect, software architect, and I want you also to think like an architect by two these factors, and also the second one, which is the breadth of knowledge. So you, as a developer or an engineer, you're highly skilled on some particular subject, and software architects are also are highly skilled on some particular subject. But what probably software architect needs to have is to have way more knowledge, even if they are not, let's say, skilled on that. So they need to have a lot more knowledge. So we will get to that shortly. Let me give you a quick example. So when I was traveling, actually a couple of days ago to DroidCon London, I was thinking about these airplane and aircrafts, how they are somehow created or architected. Um, as a matter of fact, we have a couple of different aircrafts when it comes to the designing the engine. This is a real example. We have these type of aircrafts that they have engines below the wings. We have some aircrafts that they have the engine on top of the wings. And we have some aircrafts that they have the engines embedded to the wings. The last two ones are not very common. That's why probably you are now saying, "Oh, I didn't know that we have these type of aircrafts." Well, we do have it definitely in real life. But then the question here is that which one is better, right? Let me give you let's compare these three aircrafts quickly. So when I wanted to compare this, I quickly came up with three factors and I tried to research about them. For example, how about safety, or how about the structural strengths and maintenance? Let's talk about this. As a matter of the fact, if the engine is below the wings, it seems like because it's a little bit further away from the cabin and also the fuel tank, it's much safer. But it comes with some trade-off. Just listen to me. It comes with some trade-off. For example, because the exhaust, it comes at the below of the wing, and what it does is probably going to create more noise to the cabin, especially if you are sitting in the economy at the end of the aircraft. If you are in the first class in the beginning of the aircraft, that's fine. But that is a trade-off here. And we'll get to some other factors here as well. And when the architect designed to decide to have these engines below the wings, it seems like because of the way the structure way of adding these engines below the wings, you can add more engine, and also you can have bigger engines. Well, which is a very good factor, right? And also because it's closer when it's attached to the engine below the wing, it's closer to the ground, so it's easier to get access to the engine and work with that and repair it and maintain it. So now the question is then, which one is better, do you think? Well, clearly the answer is, well, the engine must be below the wings, right? Or is it? Okay, let's maybe add some more factors and then compare it again. So it seems like when the engines are below the wings, the aerodynamics. Well, I'm not very into that, but it creates some kind of uh, asymmetric power. So, and that will have some type of increase in the fuel. So the cost generally for the aircraft will go higher, and because it's not as performant as the other two types. And also, when the engine is closer to the ground, it's easier to absorb and gather all the dust and things around it, which makes it a little bit, let's say, um, harder to clean, and also maybe the lifespan of the engine will decrease as well. So now the question is, we understood, right? So all of the pros and cons and trades off. Well, which one is better right now? Well, clearly, we can't even say which one is better because it really depends on which situation you are designing these aircrafts. Let's go to the next factor. That was the technical breeds, right? So you gonna have some stuff that you are really specialized, and that is the part that you have depths in your technical knowledge. And there are also some part of stuff that you don't know. You don't know. Like, you've heard about it, but you don't know like how they work. Maybe you have a very superficial knowledge about it, and that is the technical breadth, and that is what architects are trying to understand. Why I'm saying this is because when you want to make a decision, that may affect your decision. In fact, let me give you an example. Who in the audience, I'll give you 10 seconds. Who in the audience have heard about triple pattern or segmented state pattern in Flutter? Well, that is the part that I'm talking about, right? So this is something that architects are trying to at least know about them. They're trying to expose themselves to sources that they can learn more about different solutions and different problems, even, right? Or different, skills, even though they are not going to the depths. And in fact, this pattern is appeared in the Flutter documentation on the state management options, the last one. So you need to know this, at least stuff that you don't know. But this part must be in your technical briefs, right? That may affect your decision. But let's talk about Flutter state management very quickly. So one of the questions here is that why this topic is so controversial, right? One of the main reasons, to my opinion, is that because Flutter doesn't come with like an opinionated solution for state management. It will leave you to whatever you want to decide. And that is the power of Flutter, by the way. It's not a downside. It gives you whatever you want to learn, you want to apply to your application, right? And there are maybe other factors as well. But now I'm going to actually walk you through the application that I made for all of my tutorials, my articles, my, workshops. And that is my MJ Coffee app, a simple application that it has a couple of screens. It has some few states that I need to manage, right? So I wanted to actually make a decision about this state management for this application, right? This is what I wanted to do. So let's talk about two approaches right now, which I had. So the first approach was, well, I could have a state for each screen independently and then manage them probably. That's one way of doing that. Or I could have even a single state, a class or object, so I could even share it across all the screens, Well, there might be other solutions as well, but these twos, what I want to say here is that which one do you think was better for this application? Well, it's a little bit hard to answer. It really depends what I want to do. Let me give you a quick chart of what I mean. When you have your state, then you want to talk about, you will actually go and find out who needs this state at all. Is it all widgets, some widgets, or is it just single widgets? If you're talking about a single widget, that is a thermal state. So you can handle it differently from app state, which is going to be handled across different widgets, right? So when I want to go and decide between these two, then I clearly go to, let's say, maybe Flutter state management options. And then I figure out that, whoa, it's a lot of options that I have. And that is the problem, right? I need to figure out now which one is better. I had experience with some of them and not all of them. So I need to give it a try and to understand which one is better for me. Let's see how an architect, or in this case, me, try to understand which of these this state management is better for me. In fact, if you want to expand your, let's say, list of state managements, it's even more than that. We have way over 30 state management right now on different packages, different patterns. And, it's really hard to, that makes your decision even harder, right? But based on this list, when you have some knowledge already, right? You have some understanding of, state management. You may understand from even documentation of the page, of the package. So which one it's closer to you. Based on these experience, I could have actually categorized this state management to 3 different categories. So I had wrapper, a category that is just wrapper based on Flutter features such as, inherited widget and inherited model and, et cetera, et cetera. So provider, report, and the rest are kind of lies on this category. Or I created like another category called reactive programming base, which Mobx, blocks, Qubit, and etc. will lies on that. And the functional programming base, which will imply, let's say, pure functions and these functional programming approaches explicitly to or implicitly to your application, packages such as Redux, for example. So now I have 3 categories. I have my application. I could actually categorize these state management based on a little bit my experience, also the documentation, quickly just overviewing the documentation. But still, what I wanted to do is that I wanted to also narrow down my list. It's impossible to have 30 packages compare. We don't have much time, right? So what I wanted to do, if I go back again to Mike's charts, which I strongly recommend you to go and follow him. He's always make these charts up to date and publish it via Twitter, so you can get a good understanding or overview of these packages. I wanted to have a short list to compare, maybe 5, 6 of them. You look at I have a code conf here. I had likes, GitHub star, popularity points, and etc. and etc. And documentations and things like that. So I could quickly come up with some criteria. Like I wanted to use a package that is widely used. Like let's say have a lot of GitHub stars or maybe likes in pop.dev, or had a very good documentation. And I also wanted to these packages have code coverage over 70%. That is my limit here. I really want to have the package that has very good code coverage. And well, I also wanted somehow packages that are only doing state management. Well, and also maybe dependency injection built into the package was a good plus for me. And at the end, I also wanted these packages are being well maintained at the repository on the GitHub. I checked them and I wanted to see that if they are active or not. The next step was to somehow create a map of different architecture characteristic, which usually architect very love, like the words that ends with elities, right? Like scalability, agility, or productivity, and simplicity, and etc. So I wanted to map this to business concerns as well as the Flutter concerns, like our dev concerns. What I did was I said, okay, from the business perspective or a domain perspective, merges like scaling or adding more maybe features, business, and etc. It's very important. So that actually something that I could say these are like adaptability, maybe extensibility or scalability. In fact, from the developer perspective, it's somehow like, does it have a lot of boilerplate code? Can I easily extend it? Can I just maintain it and support it very well? And these are the things that was just relies on this category. Another one is that the business, my product owner, from that point of view, they wanted to go to the market faster, having these features as fast as possible, right? And from the Flutter dev perspective, how easy I can quickly understand this and how easy I can develop, or how can easily deploy, or maybe change something from, let's say, one folder to another folder, one widget to another widget. And, things like make the deployability of a feature inside your app easily. So, and those characteristics in the architecture perspective is agility, testability, and deployability, and etc. The customer satisfaction, well, in fact, here I added dev satisfaction, is the part that was very important. Like if I use this package, does it have like a code generation? Does it like do a lot of magically things created for me, or does it come with the dev tools or a good documentation and examples? Can I find those easily everywhere? Those relays on, the characteristic that we say, okay, performance is probably very important. Productivity of you, like how quickly you can implement that, how quickly you can, test this or maintain your package. And if you can handle the error very well, these are the things that usually makes devs happy, our customer at the end of the day happier. And at the end, time and budget, right? So if a package is very, very complex, the team size maybe is quite big, and or maybe very small, or the knowledge about the project inside the team is not that high, and or you have like maybe you don't have much senior developers, you need to have way simpler solution. Usually it relies on a category that has simplicity and feasibility, right? You don't want to choose something that is very complex if in the first glance of the documentation you don't even understand, and probably takes a long time to understand, might not be a good solution for my problem at the moment. So let's now compare packages based on these factors that I've talked in the previous one, and based on the characteristic that we just defined together. And in fact, I could come up with this table of having simplicity, productivity, testability, scalability, maintainability, adaptability, agility, and deployability. The first thing I started to, it came to my list was set a state. I mean, it's so underestimated. So you have set a state as a as the low level approach to use for widget specific, right? It's like for great for ephemeral states. Well, there are probably some cons here. The fact here is that it comes with a good and very easy to use, like simplicity was quite high, 5 star, let's say. It makes you a little bit productive. Well, and maybe adaptability, like my team and like if I go over internet, everyone understand it easily. It makes you very agile quickly because it's built into the SDK. It comes also with some trade-off. And that's the point I want to mention here. You need to learn from me that although it's simple, or although it's like very make you very agile, then at the same time it's not very scalable because then it comes with a fact that you don't have separation of concern, maybe, or passing down, lifting down, and lifting up the state might be very difficult as well, right? So I'm not going to go through this. We don't have much time. I just want to quickly overview and give you a perspective of an architect thinking about the problem. So definitely these, we can go much deeper, but then maybe in another session that we have more time. You can always come back to me with any question, by the way. Another solution was provider and change notifier. I'm not going to talk about this because the author of provider, Remy, has strongly recommended that for new projects or from now, if you're using any project that doesn't have a state management or a dependency injection and you're thinking to add that, you need to consider the next slide that I'm going to show. So don't use provider if you have not used it right now. So the next one is RiverPod. RiverPod is from the same author, and as he said a couple of times previously, it's like provider version 2. It's a good provider with a lot of new features. Also, it's a bit simple to work with, not as simple as provider and set state though. But it comes again. It's a little bit more complex compared to provider and maybe set state. But that is again a trade-off. A trade-off here is that although it's a little bit more complex, but it makes you and your team way more productive because it comes with a lot of features that you may need, and also it's highly testable. You can easily work with that, and it's also very scalable. I mean, for any type of application, you can use this package. And maintainability, and of course, it's just perfect. And deployability, like if you want to change something or, move around stuff, it's way easy. Again, here, there are some trade-offs. Something is good, something is not. So you need to decide. I came up with some also result, like where you should use probably this package based on these facts. Let's move on to Block. Many of you probably are familiar with that. Again, Block as a pattern, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Block as a package, which is built by Flex, right? The pattern as well as the package comes with an approach that is actually coming from the reactive programming category, right? It's a great, for sure, package and a pattern for your application. But again, it's not very simple to understand, especially for newcomers, especially for those who are coming from, let's say, from web background. So you might not feel comfortable with that. So, and if your application doesn't utilize streams a lot, so you might feel like, okay, it's a little bit maybe overkill, right? But at the same time, the package provides a very good way to test any different things or scalable as like any type of application, especially large applications. You can just go ahead with that. Let's move on to Mobx, another package for sure. And again, the package comes from the reactive programming category that I made, at least for myself. And it comes, well, compared to Block, it comes with less boilerplate code. It's simpler to understand. It's simpler to adopt. That's why it makes you a more productive compared to other one. But again, that comes with some trades off, like, right? So probably it's not as a scalable as probably Block is, or others, or Riverpod, or maybe it's not as good as the rest in terms of testability. This is also something that you need to take into account. So again, it comes with some code generation, some magic behind the scenes. If you're a big fan of that, for sure, you might feel very comfortable with that. That is aligned with your adaptability and maintainability in your team. Maybe you think that makes you even more agile. However, from my application and my point of view, well, that was the other way around. So I thought that, oh, maybe it makes me a little bit slower. That code generation always should, run and stuff like that. Anyway, another thing is that Redux, coming from the functional programming approach. Again, you're coming from a team that most of you are web developers, or maybe newcomers to Flutter, and you've been familiar with Redux. You might feel good, but then I compare it for my application and my team, and I realized that, okay, it's actually not very simple to understand if you're not familiar, especially in Dart, because of the language features compared to JavaScript. You might feel a little bit, uncomfortable with the pattern as well as, the package. But again, the complexity come with some type of trade-off. Like, for example, it might be a very good solution for scalability. So you have a big object, you can just share it everywhere. It's highly scalable, right? And it has, on the other hand, again, it has a lot of boilerplate code, probably. It's a trade-off here. So you need to decide which of these factors are more important for you. Let's go for the next one. And that was the get it and get it mix in. Like, I've seen that many people are using get it as a state management as well. In fact, it's not. So even Thomas is saying that get it is a dependency injection, is a service locator. But the get it mixing makes these two perfect as a state management solution. Quickly, I compared them. I need to say something in parentheses for all of you, is that you can actually get let's say, a sample project of all of these packages in a repository called Flutter Architecture by Brian. So you can find it on GitHub. It's very easy. So you don't need to even write any project. You can have simple applications, similar applications. You can compare them again. You don't even need to download. You can just compare codes and GitHub. All right. So at the end of the day, so what I did was now I had these six packages narrowed down based on my criterias. Then I needed to decide which one I should use for my application, for MJ Coffee app, right? So I didn't say in the beginning Block or Riverpod or Mobx or etc., etc. I compared them, I add them some stars, some values, and at the end I said, all right, based on this chart, which I have, simplicity and agility is more important for me. I wanted to finish this application within a day. I didn't want to spend more than that. Now you tell me which one I chose. Which one among these six you think I chose? I give you some time. Once you are writing your comments, I will explain something else here. Here is the fact that you, as an architect, let's go to the next slide. You also need to take into account that your team, your culture in the team, it's also very important. And the fact that project evolves is a very important thing that you need to take into account. You might come up with some solution today, which is not valid in the next 6 months. So it is very good idea to actually have that perspective in the 6 months and choose a very good one from the beginning. But my point here is that if you haven't made that decision, don't worry about it. Your project evolves, you can change, you can replace it with another solution. Let's get back to this. So based on this chart, based on the fact that was very important for me, simplicity and agility, I actually decided to use set state, nothing else, because that was the only thing I needed. I didn't want to scale this application. I didn't want to like spend so much time on it. I just wanted to have no dependencies to my application. I get everything out of the box when something like null safety comes to the language or to SDKs. I get this automatically upgraded and stuff like that, right? So I made my decision. Set state was my state management solution for my application. So again, remember your project evolves and you may change that. And in fact, what I want to tell you at the end is that if you decide a good architecture for your application, let's say you have a layered architecture, for example, you may have this state management in a layer that is very easy to remove that. For example, if you have this application in your state management in application layer, your presentation is not polluted with a lot of logics, then it's easier later to remove whatever you decide. Let's say you decide about block and replace it with Mobx because you feel like that is better for you, right? So the point here is that try to start with something. Do not spend so much time on finding which one is the best, because it's probably you will not find the best, because it's very, very depends on your application. So in this talk, I try to walk you through to the journey that software architects usually go, like architectural thinking, how they think about the problems, how they find the solution, the problems. And you will have also Flutter state managements like set state and value listenable and change notifier and everything that is built in to the Flutter SDK was my choice. See, I didn't need any package, nothing, but based on the architecture characteristic, which is also translated to business language as well as our dev team language, right? So I decide on that, so nothing else. And I think I made this decision perfectly for my application, and it works for me. It really doesn't matter if someone else comes and say, "Hey, you made a bad decision." I don't think I made a bad decision because it works for me and my team. So that's perfect. And so now the question here is, after this talk, which state management do you think is the best for you? You may go ahead and write it in the comments right now. I give you some time, maybe 5 seconds. Let's have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And perfect. The answer is, of course, it really depends. I know this is a boring answer. You may want a clear answer, but without knowing about your project, your team, your goals, your characters, your architecture character, your software, your feature, it's impossible to say which one is better for your needs. So with that said, thank you very much to listen to me. I hope you got the takeaways today. It really depends. Again, a repetitive probably answer to your question, but that's actually it. You can find me on different social media, YouTube, Twitter, and somewhere else. You get the slides from slides.com/myhandler. Go ahead and check it out if you want. Again, make the same process for your application or whatever application you have, and always remember to reevaluate your decision. And if you have any question, I'm happy to answer question if you have time. I'm not sure. Maybe Vafa or someone else can tell me if we can go through some questions. All right. So then, should I say goodbye to audiences, or should I say something else? Can the host tell me what should I? Yeah, okay. So probably we should say goodbye. Thank you very much again to listen to me. Don't forget to get back to me for feedbacks or whatever question you have, I'm happy to answer always on different social media. So, and have a fantastic weekend or day, wherever you are, or night.